It's value chain I hate.
I won't mention value chain. So there are two value chains here.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Welcome to another in the series of EACI, the European Aviation Conference Institute and GARS webinars. Today, we are continuing our deep dive into Poland, which, of course, is ahead of this year's EAC conference, which is to be held in Warsaw in mid-November. So continuing our deep dive into Poland, because the EAC conference this year, of course, is being held in Warsaw. And I'm absolutely delighted today to be speaking with Dr. Filip Szyniński, who I'm sure I've just mispronounced the name of. And he is the CEO of the new Warsaw Airport, or Airport for all of Poland. Filip, how do you describe what it is?
Yes, so hello everyone. Hello, Andrew. The new hub airport for Poland, I would call it, though the project itself is aimed to replace the present Chopin airport that is serving Warsaw municipality.
Right. I mean, that is, as we discussed in another podcast recently, that is, of course, a very central city airport, isn't it? It's very close to the middle of Warsaw. How far away is the airport you're building from Warsaw?
You're right. The present airport is located just 8 kilometers away from the very city center. So it's, 15 minutes by car. The airport we are building is and planning to have is more than 40 kilometers away towards west. It is so to say, even behind the last suburban areas, so with very little population and with this advantage of not affecting too many inhabitants surround.
Well, let me say from my experience that won't last, because, of course, airports are enormous hubs of industry and of building and so forth. But 40 kilometres is in modern airport terms, no terrible distance away at all, is it, of course? Let me start, though, Filip, if I may. Thank you for that background. Let me start, though. Why? I mean this in the nicest possible way. Why do you have the job? Is your background construction? Is it airports? Is it aviation?
So my background is refers to different fields of reference. So first of all, I'm a lawyer, and that's maybe unusual. I have.
Aren't we all?
I'm holding PhD in law, and I'm also attorney at law. I used to practice law as a business lawyer, but during my business career, I'm a specialist in aviation law, so I'm also teaching, and I'm still teaching at one of the law schools in Warsaw, aviation law, which is only the couple of courses that are available on aviation law in Poland. But beside being simply an expert in aviation law, that I'm pretending to be, I also have an experience in aviation business, and in particular in airports, as I've been working for almost 15 years at the Polish Airports state enterprise. That is the owner and the one who is which is managing the Chopin Airport. This means that I spent a very close look at the airports business for more than a decade. First as a director of the Ownership Supervision Office, so supervising all the subsidiaries, among which are all the regional airports, almost all of the regional airports in Poland. And then I've been heading also a department on strategy and strategic projects developments, among which I was in charge of the first master plan for Chopin Airport, and I was also the leader and head of the as a project manager for building Modlin Airport, which is the low-cost carriers airport nearby Warsaw, serving also the same city, the same municipality, but dedicated to low-cost carriers. This was a project that I was the manager of between 2006 and 2012.
Right.
So that's my background in general, which relates both to airports management and also a little bit in academics.
Right. And so is the new airport also going to be owned by the state airport ownership entity?
The new airport is a project that is managed and owned by SPV. It's a dedicated company established by the government. It's called Central Transportation Hub. I would translate it into English.
Right.
We use sometimes also that other names, but this is how it translates, the CPK abbreviation that we use in Polish. This company employs now around 800 people, among which most of them are engineers, designers, and planners who are in charge of not only the airport itself, but also, and that's enormous compilation. So because we are also in charge of new high-speed rail in Poland, which for the first, only in the first stage, that is going to be delivered in the very same time as the airport, is 500 kilometers of high-speed rail of 350 kilometers per hour, and connecting four biggest cities in Poland.
And one assumes going through your airport as well, or the new airport.
Exactly, and that will be also the advantage. So the intermodality of this airport is crucial. So we are aiming to build by 2032 not only the airport but also the completely new line connecting Warsaw with the airport and the closest city, 120 kilometers away from Warsaw towards west. So it's actually from Warsaw through CPK, through the airport to the next town. And this is actually the direct way connecting Warsaw with Western Europe. So in fact, it lies directly on the highway that leads to Berlin and further on towards west.
Right. Oh, very, very interesting. And the rest of the railway will be built over time. Is that right?
So the first 120 kilometers is by 2032, and we will start building other parts of this rail connections already from the start, but we'll probably deliver them by 30. The goal is to deliver them by 2035. So by 2035, we should have 500 new kilometers of high-speed rail.
Right. Oh, very an ambitious target, it would seem.
It
so
is.
Has construction started on the airport? I mean, are there shovels in the ground and things like that?
Shovel in the ground will be next year, but some little constructions are already there. I mean, the general construction, the actual shovel will be the less next year. So we are now, if you're asking just about the airport, so just to focus on that part, we are now buying out the land. So for the time being, we are just following a procedure of voluntary sale of those of this land that is needed for the airport itself. We acquired so far 50% of the land. We have the first instance location decision, which in a couple of months we reach the final second instance location decision, by which the voluntary buyout will end and will start expropriations, which means
Right.
that in probably something like half of the needed land, which is 4,000 hectares, will out of 4,000 hectares, 2,000 will be expropriated, and these are mostly farming land. So those farmers are simply waiting to be expropriated, as they also wait and hope for to get a better price in expropriations.
Of course.
That we give to those who are buying, who are selling this on their own.
Right.
I think this second instance location decisions will enable us to submit for building permits, choose also the construction companies, and start digging probably in a year,
Right.
a year from now.
Oh, I obviously, when you started talking about the farmers, I just had the word Narita come into my mind, because that was an enormous problem. The farmers a small group of farmers refused to sell. But if you've got the right to compulsorily acquire the land, then obviously I hope you don't end up with that problem. How many runways is it going?
The problem, just to finish this subject, the point is that, you know, what I'm personally very sensitive about is the expropriations on people who live there, actually. So to make people live their own houses where they used to live for centuries. And the problem is that for those, we have quite good offer on buying out those houses, and we can give them quite good price, and also give them some time to leave the property. But because it is a farming land, there are only about 300 houses. So out of those 300 houses, we already bought out more than 200, exactly to speak, 209. So which means that most of the people that used to live there already left that places, and now we are we'll be focusing on this farming land.
Right. So an enormous amount of land called for. How many runways is the airport going to have?
Two runways. It is there will be two independently operational runways with also secured space for the third runway. So for the time of delivery, for the time of opening, we should have a facility and terminal and airside designed for to accommodate something like 34 million passengers, with quite easy extension to 38 million passengers just inside the terminal, to simply increase the number of check-ins and security control lines. And with building one more piers, so instead of 3, we would have 4 pieces. We could increase the capacity of the airport to 44 million. And then if it's needed, which according to our present traffic forecasts, we expect that in the year in 50s, we might need the third runway. So then we would start also expanding the airside.
Right. So you're very confident that Poland needs this enormous new this large airport?
We do. It is mostly because we have at the present infrastructure, and that's I think that's the most important factor. The present infrastructure which is the hub airport, the only hub airport that has this function in Poland is Warsaw Chopin Airport. It now serves something like around 30 something percent of transferring passengers. And this infrastructure is, as we said in the beginning, is quite in the city center. There is no space for expansion, and there is no possibility to increase the capacity of that infrastructure. It served last year 21.3 million passengers. This year it will reach probably 24 million passengers. Only last weekend they served 25%, the very 2 days, which was in Poland, there was a national holiday, and we had everyone was using this opportunity to make a short, holiday break. And just last weekend we had year to year, just to compare, 25% of increase of traffic at the Chopin Airport. So it might happen that even this 24 million passenger this year might be too modest, and it's might exceed that number. Whereby at this present infrastructure, it's impossible to serve more than 28, 29 million passengers with some modernization inside the terminal and expanding some it a little bit. So by the year 2030, maybe 31, it will be simply packed, and it will be no space for increase. And for that reason, we need a new infrastructure, a new place to develop. We have two-digit growth year to year after the COVID recovery. So all the forecasts show that we'll probably have this ongoing growth and potential for growth for another decade or more. As Poles, for the time being, they in average they fly 1.5 flights per year, in compared to Western Europe, which is twice as much, or even 3 times as much.
And that's sort of on the back of Poland being a really successful economic growth story, isn't it?
Yeah, that's one of the key factors. So people simply got richer; they can afford, flights and travel abroad. What is also very interesting, there is this. Those holiday peaks are expanding. Usually we had just summer holidays, lasting 2 months, July and August. Now people they got older, which is, and those older ones also can afford flights, which was unusual in the past. So they simply don't need to go on holidays during summer where there are holidays in schools. So now it turns out that people are tending to use, expand their summer vacation, or also to start them at May and last until October. Especially as summer became also quite hot in Poland, and they like to use also other months of the year to travel. And that can be observed. It's really a very recent development. It's quite surprising also to many of the tour operators, which are now offering, and charter flights are increasing even year to year, over 20%. So it shows that there is a completely new wave of passengers in traffic. Business flights, as in Western Europe, didn't recover that well, and that there is no such big growth in business flights. but still LOT is the only air carrier in our region in Central Eastern Europe that survived. Or our competitors actually collapsed a number of years ago or very recently, including Malev, the Hungarian ones, the Czech Airlines very recently, or Tarom, Romanian. So air carrier, most of them didn't survive, and we are actually with LOT, we are which is performing very well. We are hoping that this also is a great potential for growth at this airport.
Sure, absolutely. So I assume, therefore, LOT will be very happy to hear this new airport is being built.
We are, as I keep calling it, we are very tight, well together. So both the airport success is depending on success of LOT, and LOT success is probably
Sure.
also depending on whether this infrastructure will be delivered on time, because literally already this year LOT will be having problems in putting their aircrafts on overnight standing stands positions, because there is not enough space for their aircrafts at Chopin Airport. They have now, they are approaching now, they have now, if I'm not mistaken, 86 aircrafts. In the coming months, they will receive a couple of new ones. So we expect that by the day of opening of the new airport, LOT will double its size. So it's simply no space for them to develop at Chopin Airport, and only the possibility to develop and also to build their HARP function and their transfer offer is possible if having infrastructure like this designed for transfer passengers.
So excuse my ignorance, but LOT is also state-owned?
It's state-owned, yes, that's right.
Yeah. I should know that. I apologise for not knowing so. And I'm also interested, though, by 2035, when all of the high-speed rail is being built, how does Poland as an entire country celebrate the arrival of this new airport? Or will carriers, or LOT, for example, who would have flown between the cities that the high-speed rail is now going to link, do they mind that?
I might say the following. At present, of course, there is number. I'm sorry, I can't remember the figure now, but the number of internal flights. So in flights in between Poland, there are a number of them, but this is less. If I remember it correctly, less than 10%. This means that those kinds of flights will. I mean, it's very similar to what has happened, for example, in recently in France. So this means that, of course, European policy is to restrict short distance flights and internal inside the country flights. LOT is using those flights mostly to feed the Warsaw hub. So they are simply, gathering people from all over the country just to fly into Warsaw and then jump to another aircraft, wide-body aircraft. And this will probably stay because, Poles got used to those regional airports, which are quite well developed. A number of them are, most of them are growing also enormously. Krakow, which is the second biggest airport, is serving now something like 8 or 9 million passengers. I remember that was the exact figure when I was starting my work at the Chopin Airport. And now it is more than double that much at Chopin Airport. So Krakow and all number of regional airports will stay probably operating as they are now, and high speed will simply take some of the point to point, so to say, operations that for the time being don't serve the hub, so to say, role of lot. So if people are simply intending to go one day, to other city around Poland, at present they choose between actually cars and an aircraft. We have quite rapidly developing a highway network, and sometimes people simply prefer to take their own car. But I can easily imagine that this can be well replaced by rail, by high-speed rail, which is reliable, which is much faster, and which brings you to the very downtown. So some percentage of that traffic will be lost, but this allies also with the EU policy, and those short flights will be surely cut at some point.
No, absolutely, I understand that. As a general comment, it appears that building an airport is one of the hardest things on earth to do. It's so unusual to see new airports, certainly in Western Europe, or certainly in Europe and indeed other places. But all of a sudden, we've got your new airport, and there's a new airport coming on stream in Lisbon as well, or to serve Lisbon as well. Well, it sounds to me as if you wouldn't have met much resistance to a proposal to build a new airport. Was there any sort of resistance? Was it hard to get approval?
Of course, there is always some resistance. The resistance usually goes along with those who suffer from this investment, and it's obvious that you can't build a big infrastructure without interfering with present inhabitants, with the farming that is there. So it's hard to even so to say respond to everyone's wishes. So, for example, I had from my very first day a very tough discussion with Warsaw municipality authorities that are taking care of the it's environmental office or so. So this, there was an argument, which is a very strong one, that we are taking one of the best farming lands in Poland, of the very good quality of the soil, and that land is giving very good farming results. So those farmers will suffer. The problem is that, and I do agree. I mean, that's very sorry that I am quite very sorry that we are taking this farming land away. That and there will be more concrete than seeds in it. But at the same time, the advantage of this very chosen location is that we are not expropriating that many inhabitants, because it was simply prohibited to build that in that land, any bigger settlements, because this land was used for farming. So of course, I mean, it's these are those values, and from my point of view, it is more important just to not to make suffer people. I mean, and from that point of view, I really hate seeing people suffering who need to leave their properties, their houses that they have been living for centuries. and I would prefer not to make them leave. But so to decrease the number of people leaving was one of my priorities. But when I checked, and I asked also my staff to double check, whether this actually that farming land that we are taking is it really that serious damage? And it turns out that this is just 3% of all the farming land only in that particular Poland district or department or whatever you call it.
Wow.
In Polish, it's voivodeship. So it is, if you take it compared to the whole country, it is really not that meaningful. So that was probably one of the key factors. Other ones, I mean, there are no major competitors nor no other businesses that we were interfering with. It was also important just to ally with Chopin Airport authorities, so to make them involved in this whole process, so that they don't feel somehow expelled from this procedure. But beside that, there is quite a high nationwide support for this development, which national surveys say that more than 60%, up to 70% of the whole population of Poland is in favor of this project.
Right. Wow. You don't hear that very often around the world, I think.
That's quite unusual, I would say. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Do you have any, or do you imagine you'll have competitor airports? Who would be your nearest competitor, do you think?
In my opinion, it would be Vienna. Vienna is quite similar in size. Vienna has quite similar in size home-based carrier, which is the Austrian air carrier, and is also serving quite similar areas of Europe, I would say. Vienna for now focused and their home carrier are serving mostly Balkans. LOT is more focused on Northern and Eastern Europe. So we hope still to have not to be in direct competition, but of course, I would say we have to take into account how they are developing, and we are also looking very much and close on them. Some of the obvious competitors that we used to treat as our most serious competitors, like Prague or Budapest, in my opinion, are out of stake now because they lost their major home carrier, and it's completely different kind of service now they are providing. And this also stands for Berlin. In those three mentioned airports, there is around 1 or 2% of transferring passengers only.
Yeah.
Whereby in Warsaw we have over 30%, and we aim for around 40% of transferring passengers at the new location. So it's simply it is a little bit different offer, because we are aiming to become another hub airport for this part of Europe, and that because the closest and the most similar kind of operations are offered in Vienna.
Right. Budapest and Prague now, of course, have very big low-cost carrier offerings. I assume you're also trying to attract low-cost carriers to your airport.
We are, because you can't make business without them, and of course they are they are also growing enormously. At Chopin Airport, the growth of low-cost carriers, especially Wizz Air, is much bigger than LOT. The difference is also that, I mean, it's not only about the prices, but low-cost carriers are also offering this kind of a product, this kind of a service that is very much needed or required by the passengers. So they are offering destinations for holidays, but also for short business trips, especially for those who live there is number of and there is a big number of Poles who left Poland for jobs to Germany, to UK, after Poland joining EU and Schengen area.
The Polish diaspora has always been very large, hasn't it? Of course, it must be a real benefit for the Polish aviation industry.
That's right. This is also why, for example, we have very good and have been always very profitable on flights to the US. There is, there are different figures, but some people say that there is more than 2 million Poles living in the US. There is probably, I remember in the peak years, there was something like up to 1 million Poles living, just of the new migrants to UK. So just after Poland joining EU, there were cities like Manchester of 200,000 of Poles, or
Wow.
up to even 500,000 at some moment. Now there are much less, but still they keep their friends, they're keeping some businesses over there, or they simply fly back and forth. And those cheap flights are offering, not only cheap flights, but they're also offering exactly those destinations that are looking for, that those passengers are looking for, whereby LOT is trying to offer some little different
Sure.
offer. And again, we cannot forget about those low-cost carriers who are in general also bringing good profits of those passengers, because they are also spending nice money in the airport itself, in duty-free zone. So they are we cannot forget about them.
So what will the offering be for low-cost carriers? Will they have a separate terminal or lower grade facilities happens in Amsterdam?
The whole design of the terminal is integrated in one quality and one kind of level of quality facility for everyone, as it is at Chopin Airport, exactly the same. So
Right.
we are, this. What happened is when you lose your legacy carrier, like what happened in Berlin or what happened in Prague, or Prague maybe less recently, but in Budapest earlier, it's exactly when you lose your legacy carrier, then the low-cost carriers are trying to dictate their requirements and their needs, and they say, we are not going to pay for this fancy facility and all those air bridges or so. So like in Berlin or Budapest, they simply built a dedicated infrastructure for them. But this is only due to the fact that there is no way to to look for optional or other carrier
Yeah. Yeah.
to replace them.
Mm.
In our case, we hope to keep a balance in between legacy and cheap and also low-cost carriers.
What's your planning for the percentage of low-cost flights versus legacy carriers?
I think if we look at Chopin Airport and if we would keep that that balance and this percentage as it is now, it would be almost 50-50. LOT is serving around 40% at Chopin Airport, and I hope it's gonna be the same at the new location.
Right.
I'm not sure, how LOT will perform, but there is a big chance that it's gonna be quite similar.
Right. Right. So, what about issues like sustainability? Are you planning to power your airport with solar panels and things like that?
For sure. We are aiming to be net zero ready by the day of opening. So there will be a big solar farm that we are already now in planning. And so it's going to be not only the design that will help us to be sustainable and eco-friendly, but also the supply of power coming from our own solar plants.
And is that going to be on the airport land itself, the solar farm?
Just next to it, yeah.
Right,
Just next to it, not to interfere with the with the operations, but so it's not going to be in the airside of the airport itself, but just in the very nearest distance.
Right. I was thinking you mentioned Berlin a couple of times, and of course, that is the poster child of Berlin Airport for terrible on-time performance, on-time delivery of the airport itself. They had any number of problems, but the biggest problem seems to have been the baggage system, the baggage handling system. Have you gone to school on other airport developments and redevelopments recently?
Yeah, of course. We are. This is, there is a saying in Polish that you should learn on the mistakes of the others, not on your own. So we are trying to take the lessons from wherever we have heard of mistakes being done. Recently, we've been studying on the tragedy at Charles de Gaulle, 2006 or 8. Number of people died even in this collapse of one of the new terminal pierces. The same was with Berlin. There was, of course, a problem in construction but there were number of stories to learn from actually in Berlin. That's quite interesting. One of them was I have also good friends in Berlin in the management, and they told me once a number of those stories. So we are also studying those. For example, just one of them to mention, one of those mistakes was that even the ownership structure was difficult because there are 3 owners in equal 3 parts. So the state, the land. So I don't know how you call it in English. So Brandenburg land, and then
the state. So the federals, and then the state government as well. The regional
and so they have, for example, so they had a problem in agreeing, so to come to consensus in decisions. So each one of was trying to push in their own interest, and so including quite often changes in management, but also because Berlin itself and Brandenburg were pushing for to divide those those constructions into small pieces, so that many even smaller companies, local companies, could be involved, which is not a bad idea. But because they divided into small constructions and small contracts, it turned out that managing then the whole group of different companies, among which were some of them were not capable to deliver what they have offered and so on, it brought to a complete disaster, including those failures also in firefighting systems and so on. So
Yep,
the
that's right.
of big mistakes. I even I was there before the opening number of times, and also saw the problem of staircases that don't match the floor. There were ridiculous stories because someone else was just having the contract just on stairs, and they didn't fit this the floor level. So ridiculous, but all those stories we have to learn from, and and of course we are trying to be more clever in learning from those lessons.
Well, indeed, or to use another very famous Polish saying, not my circus, not my monkeys. You want that to be their circus, not to be yours. Absolutely. I've taken up much of your time. I know that it's a very busy day for you, that you've got state ministers and what have you coming or with you today. I really appreciate your time, Philippe, and telling us about this. I'm really looking forward to getting to Warsaw and eventually to using the airport. But in the meantime, let me finish by asking one last question, which is, does anything get you up at 3 a.m. or have you wake up at 3 a.m. at the moment worried? Is there anything in particular that's bothering you or that we need to focus on?
It goes with the time. Tomorrow I'm going to talk with the farmers. I'm already mentioned this issue a number of times. This is exactly the time when we are getting to this very moment where we will have to start expropriations, and I would love to mitigate those risks and try to convince them and present them the best offers that we can have. Actually today also we've been meeting with the minister, because the two of us are going tomorrow just to meet a number of farmers that are the big farmers and landowners there. So that's one of the issues that we are dealing with now, and I would love to to do this investment with as least as possible interference with the local inhabitants, which of course it's impossible to mitigate completely, especially during the construction time. Even will be enormously interfering with everyone there, with noise, with even dust and so on and so forth. So that's one of the first issues that worries me. Of course, one of the also interesting things that we haven't been talking much about is manpower. So we are depopulating in Poland. We are not having much students interested in studying polytechnics. So we are. I also initiated a new project on educating new future employees for the airport. So we need more than 10,000 employees in the future. They're not everyone from the present located airport will be interested to move further 40 kilometers out of the city. There are quite easy with the present location and happy with it. So not everyone will be interested in moving to the new place. But because it's going to be double as big, so we'll need much more people to work there, and it's not possible just to bring them, from a different continent or wherever else. So we need to somehow educate them. So we are having a quite extended big project with many. Also secondary schools, also with technical schools, with polytechnics, with management schools, that high schools that are that hopefully will bring this young generation of well-educated people to this project in the future.
Right. It's going to be a global problem, and certainly a European problem, the population levels and so forth. Philip, let me again say thank you very much for your time. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you found that as interesting as I did. I'm really looking forward to going to the EAC conference in Warsaw in the middle of November, when I hope it won't be as cold as it can be in Warsaw, but it certainly won't be hot. I think you can bank on that. Thank you again, Philippe, and I look forward to talking to you, hopefully, at the conference. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Thank you, and everyone, for listening to us. And of course, you are more than welcome to follow our project, and hopefully also to fly from the new CPK airport, so the new hub airport for Poland, already in 2032.
Looking forward to it indeed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed.